A teenage girl was imprisoned by her biological father for 20 years. Not only that, she had to be beaten and violated by him. She also gave birth to 4 children during this time. What could have happened to make a father do such a horrible thing? The girl's name is Sarah. Her father, Don, was a very controlling man. He would never allow anyone in his family to go against his wishes. One night, Sarah sneaks out to go out with her boyfriend. Don sits at the door and waits for her all night. The next morning, Don saw her when her boyfriend brought her back. Don was already irritated after sitting outside all night. When he saw them making out, he was even more angry, so he argued with his daughter before he even entered the house. Sarah said, "I'm going to be 18 soon. When I'm 18, I'll leave here." She ran off in a huff to her room, but she didn't know that Don would never allow that to happen. Sarah's rebellion challenged his desire to control. A diabolical plan was forming in his mind. One day when his wife Irene and his eldest daughter were out, Don asks Sarah to help him carry a box to the basement. Don pushes open the box. A secret room appears in the back. Sarah was very confused. Don quickly explained that this is a bomb shelter built by the previous owner. I have modified it a little bit as a warehouse is also good. Then the two of them carried the suitcase into the secret room. Don went out and locked the door when Sarah wasn't looking. The room was soundproofed by Don, so no matter how loud Sarah cried out for help, the next door will not hear a sound until Sarah opened the box she brought in. She found that the boxes were filled with her own belongings. Only then did Sarah realize she had been imprisoned by Don, but she didn't know that she would be tortured by Don for the next 20 years. She panicked and pressed the combination lock on the wall. Suddenly the lights went out. It turns out that if you enter the room code 3 times, the basement would automatically cut off the power. The exhaust fan will also stop turning. On the other side, mother and sister were looking for Sarah in a hurry, while Don was relaxing, drinking tea and reading the newspaper. So Sarah was held captive in the basement for 4 days. She heard the sound of footsteps outside, so she got up and hid behind a pillar. She knocked Don out of the way when he didn't notice her at the door. Then she ran frantically outside. As she ran, she found another door outside. This door also had a combination lock. Don grabbed Sarah by the hair and dragged her inside, and then he started his monstrous behavior. In this secret basement room, Sarah was slapped in the face by her own father. Then he pinned her to the door and roughly rips her clothes off and violates her. Afterwards, the dehumanized father tells her, "You want anything in here, and any privilege you want, you have to earn it." He then leaves satisfied. The boyfriend hadn't seen Sarah in a long time. He came to Sarah's house to ask about it. Instead, Don told her that Sarah had run off with another man. Although he didn't believe it, but he had no choice but to leave in silence. Sarah's 21st day of captivity. It was her 18th birthday. Don brought her a cake and a dress, and told Sarah that she could choose anything she wanted. He would try to bring them all, but only if Sarah would give him everything he wanted. Then Sarah got a clock. On the 40th day of Sarah's captivity, she looked at the canning jar in front of her and had an escape plan. She made an improvised weapon out of a can lid and a spoon. But even though her plan was good, she had a good plan, she couldn't defeat Don. She was thrown to the ground by Don. The next thing she knew, she was being beaten up, and then she waited for the torture. Sarah's 350th day of captivity. On this day, Sarah's water had broken. But not only could she not go to the hospital, she would not have anyone to help her. All that was available was a simple book of pregnancy guides. Sarah was fortunate that her labor was not in danger. Her daughter was born without any problems. She became a mother at that moment, and Don said to her, "Motherhood is the best experience a woman can have." For the 4 years since Sarah was imprisoned and disappeared, her mother had been in tears all day. But she doesn't know that the daughter she's been searching for is in the basement. In the secret room, Sarah is pregnant again. Sarah's daughter Marie is growing up as she calls Don her father. As Sarah begs and pleads, Sarah begged and begged for more and more items. One day Sarah asked Don for a TV for her daughter. Of course, this came at a price. It was Marie's first time seeing the outside world. However, it was in this way. This scene is really heartbreaking to watch. In the 7th year of Sarah's captivity, Marie was suffering from asthma, but Don wasn't going to take her to the hospital. He just threw some random adult medication at her. Sarah's sister found Don's keys on the couch, so she sneaked down to the basement when Don wasn't home. She wanted to find out if there were any clues about Sarah's disappearance. But unfortunately, Sarah was only a wall away from her. When Don found her, she was scolded and kicked out. Meanwhile, Sarah in the chamber gave birth to her 3rd child. He held his daughter captive for 7 years. For 7 years, he beat and violated her. The daughter gave birth to 3 children in quick succession. With limited resources in the cell, Sarah could no longer afford to raise a third child, so she begged Dawn to take the child out and raise him. And the reason Dawn reluctantly agreed was that Sarah said if she didn't have to spend a lot of time with the baby, then she would have more time for Dawn. Dawn then took out his red dress and threw it over Sarah. Another humiliation awaits her. Time passes neither quickly nor slowly. 14 years have passed, and Sarah's belly is getting bigger again. Her daughter Marie was growing more and more beautiful. Sarah looked at Dawn's greedy face. She broke out in a cold sweat. She hurriedly told Marie to stay away from this man, but their punishment was a power failure in the chamber. After Sarah's 17th year of captivity, she had her first chance to escape. The ceiling of the chamber was infiltrated by rainwater. Sarah decided to dig through the ceiling and escape for help. Her night and day efforts finally paid off. The ceiling was finally let through. She uses a flashlight to call for help. However, an eager passerby told Dawn what he saw. Then Dawn punched and kicked Sarah, who was pregnant. Sarah had a miscarriage. In the 18th year of Sarah's captivity, her children grew up. They longed for the outside world. So they questioned Sarah. Why did they have to live in this dark room? And Sarah didn't want to escape from this hellish place. She decided to tell the children the truth. After hearing the truth, the children were disgusted with Dawn. Her youngest son even fought with Dawn. In the 19th year of Sarah's captivity, Dawn lost his job and was forced to leave. He could no longer afford to feed the people in the cell, so he made an even more terrible decision. Dawn used car exhaust to smoke everyone in the cell to death. Luckily, Dawn's grown-up son came out to comfort him when he lost his job and prevented the tragedy from happening. In Sarah's 20th year of captivity, her daughter Marie's asthma was getting worse and worse. Her life was in danger if she wasn't treated. Dawn was begged by Sarah and the children. He finally agreed to send his daughter to the hospital for treatment, but he left his youngest son as a hostage in the chamber as a precaution. After Sarah came out of the chamber, she looked at the familiar environment in front of her. She was so reluctant to leave. Marie was finally rescued and released from danger. Sarah's frightened heart was finally relieved. Sarah suddenly realized at this moment this might be her only chance to escape from the room. So she spilled her glass of water on purpose. While Dawn was looking for a doctor to change the case, Sarah took the opportunity to find the police officers on duty. She was saved. Sarah's 20 years of hell were finally over. The family was able to live a normal life. Sarah's boyfriend is still in love with her. He's always waiting for her. This is a movie based on a real case. The real events are more brutal than the film. There is no devil in this world, but there is something more terrible than the devil.